Anywhere in the world, unfortunately we have seen this at all times in history, those who became affluent for 2-3 generations at a stretch became a terribly frivolous population. It looks like only crisis, struggle keeps human beings reasonably focused on something. It's so unfortunate. Well-being, most people don't know how to handle it. Sustained well-being is generally been a disaster for most civilizations in the world, not today, for always. This is what we need to change, that even if there is sustained well-being, we will still be well, we will not mess ourselves up. In many ways, at least certain parts of this culture demonstrated that in the past. Because material affluence was always woven with spiritual practices and spiritual awareness. Because of that, people remain stable. Only now it is changing in this generation, otherwise just 25-30 years ago, if you went to places where the richest people are meeting in this country, you would see, except the ladies, the men were always in whites, simple whites, top, bottom, both white. Even today in Tamil Nadu, to some extent this is true. If you go to a wedding, outside you see, Bentleys, Mercedeses and BMWs all parked. And of course, there are a lot of two-wheelers and TVS moped, of course. If you go inside, at least the men's segment, you can't make out who came by Bentley, who came by TVS moped, because both will be dressed the same way. You cannot make out. Ladies, by the weight of jewelry they're carrying on their neck, you can make out maybe this is a rich person, this is a poor person. But among the men you just can't make out because everybody's in whites, the same starched white shirt and white dhoti. Because being wealthy is one thing, but flaunting it in somebody's face and making them feel less than yourself was considered obscene. Never anybody spoke about wealth when they meet. But these days, things are changing rapidly everywhere in the world and also in India. But for long periods of time, generations of people maintained enormous wealth, but still because of their spiritual awareness, wealth did not distort them. This is very important because never before were we able to create wealth for as many people as it's possible today. In the past, the wealthy were very small number. Today, the number of people who can afford many things, the number has increased. Well, still unfortunately a lot of people are left out of it, that's a different matter, but still, more people have access to more money and more wealth and more aspects of life than ever before in the history of humanity. So at a time like this, if our material development, material well-being and wealth is not woven with spiritual awareness, well, this will not work in our favor. Even here it's being very strongly demonstrated. Close by, within 60 kilometers, there is a town called Tirupur. Of course, right now they're in a little bit of a depression mode. But otherwise, in this town, even a regular labor, menial jobs, they're earning 2 to 3 times more than what they would earn in Coimbatore city. because this is a completely export-oriented town and everybody has a company of their own, hosiery town it is. There is wealth. So out of that, what is the consequence? One thing is, some 42% of the male population is diabetic because of the wealth. Another thing is, both men and women generally, they're trying to get into the shape of the planet. Yesterday was Earth Day, so they're working in that direction. And about few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, we found that of all the alcohol, like this was at the Diwali time, of all the alcohol sold in Tamil Nadu, nearly 70% was consumed by this one town. So if you get wealthy, you will either end up in the hospital or in the gutter. Yes. So if this is what wealth is going to do, definitely it's not a good thing. Wealth should bring well-being, because from poverty to affluence, whether it is in the life of an individual person or a society or a nation, it is a struggle. There's a lot of hard work, many unpleasant things you have to go through to move from poverty to affluence. It doesn't just come easy. After getting there, all you do is end up in the hospital or in the gutter. What is the point of this? The entire struggle is meaningless. Now the next generation will not even seek success if this is what you display. It is very important that every generation must display that material well-being has brought them ease, well-being, health, intelligence, talent, above all, a beautiful way of living. If a generation does not display this, then the next generation will start going down. So in many ways this is happening in the world. I think as in the last century, in the last 100 years, anything good or bad, the lead usually taken by United States of America. So, United States of America, the younger generation is displaying how all of us can be lost in a bottle or in a pill. People are dying, even now people are dying of overdoses and things like this. And one of the most ordered things in this e-commerce is supposed to be all legalized drugs and intoxicants. So that's how frivolous it's becoming. If we don't see certain things ahead of time, we end up in a disaster.